Good afternoon. I am Chris Bruderle, Senior Director of Research and Analytics at the IAB, and I am excited to introduce to you Oliver Chen, the Managing Director and Head of Retail and Luxury at Cowen Investment Bank. Oliver, welcome to the virtual screen.
Chris, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks a lot, Chris. So I'm really excited to be here with everybody today, and I'll go over a few slides on what we see happening in retail. So it's retail's moment to modernize. First of all, what do I do on a day-to-day basis? I cover stocks as an equity research analyst, and this is a sample of stocks that we cover and we rate. And what I do as a stock analyst is rate stocks, buy, hold, or sell based on different metrics. And so you can see that I have an overall view of a lot of different buckets of what we're seeing. So I'll go over briefly what I speak to as the new frontiers of retail, what's happening with the customer, and then what's really next. Version 1.0, online growth, physical store disruption, and this customer transformation, as well as mobile being the new mall. What's really happened, though, is this changing notion of customer centricity, the need to be mobile responsive, supply chains that rise to this challenge, and the integration of physical and digital, bricks plus clicks, saving customers time and money. The store is also transforming profoundly, a new customer mindset. What is the store? The store is not a store anymore. In many ways, it's a customer acquisition point. And you may or may not purchase an item in a store, but it just becomes part of a journey. The store is doing more, and this has forever changed and accelerated with the crisis of COVID. Digital plus physical. So our thesis at Cowen is bricks plus clicks and the integration and the need for both channels. You really see that with curbside pickup, Walmart and Target, ship from store, drive up, Target using stores as fulfillment centers, Nordstrom reinventing inventory management across the whole cluster in local markets. The Revolve Music Festival, it's very physical, and marketing spend is done in this way, and rent expense is done in this way instead, and real opening stores as well. What's happening next, 2.1, beyond that 1.0, what I see happening is what I call instant retail. What about no retail and AI retail? So this constant need for speed, and the consumer wants it and loves it, and new modalities such as curbside pickup. What about resale and rental, the Uberification of retail, and the circular and closed loop economy? Do we really need more stuff? What happens to our stuff after purchase? Those are all key questions and opportunities, and we see a lot of growth here. Artificial intelligence is a very important topic as well, and this ties directly into personalization. Can retail really earn the trust and right to your data, and what does this mean for your customer journey in the future? We also think about what I see happening with new platforms, marketplaces, multiple brands. So these companies are reaching customers in new ways, touching customers in new ways, whether it be healthcare, financial services, and other aspects. And also, we're seeing the consolidation of multiple brands under new companies. This really drives synergies in a different kind of company and scale, and really begs the question of membership models such as Amazon Prime and Walmart Plus, loyalty programs at Farfetch and MyTheresa, and social ways to connect online through commerce, such as at Poshmark. Are you unamazonable? This is a perpetually important question. Amazon has offered the consumer superior convenience. What can retail and brands do? They can have a highly curated experience. They can offer culture. What is experiential retail? Can you replicate stuff that you can't do in stores, online and stores, and get people into this changing nature of experiential retail? And then the loyalty loop. What's really important and I think underappreciated is the relationship you have with the customer post-purchase as well as pre-purchase. What about the customer and what's happening next? One key way to think about this is STAR. So sustainability, transparency, authenticity, and re-commerce. We have a proprietary survey where this really shines. As you can see, sustainability and social impact is very critical when purchasing goods, and this idea of customers voting with their dollars is even more important for the younger customer, so it's something to watch. Transparency, think about food and beauty transparency and ingredients. We really see this permeating throughout retail and consumer. Authenticity, this new nature of what is beauty, how can retail be inclusive? How can and should marketers really think about inclusivity and product and marketing and values? And then re-commerce, no retail, and thinking about resale and other ways that products will change the way retailers and consumers consume. And I'm also more than happy to send you a copy to this deck, so feel free to reach out. The do-it-yourself economy, customers that want more connection and want to save time. So these new platforms forming, authenticity being important, and retail and marketing and advertising playing a role in really helping upgrade the consumer. And then we went over this earlier, but thinking about the gig economy and the ubrification happening, and you can see it happening in different fields and aspects of retail and life at large. I would also pay a lot of attention to re-commerce. Will you rent a product? Will you own a product? And how will these marketplaces manage? And finally, closing it out on the new customer, what's more important than ever before is this idea of 3 Cs, a very connected experience across multiple channels and touch points, including the supply chain, community. The future of retail is about customer-based engagement across many social platforms, authenticity and innovation, and connecting people in new ways, and people being real fans and tribes of your brand for different reasons that are adding positive value to the customer experience. And finally, context. So think here a lot about what retail knows about you, from personalized interactions, interaction measurement, and how can retail use this data for good? What are some key aspects about what's next? Again, this idea of AI and data. What I do like to think about is magic plus logic. And part of the logic is understanding customer interactions. And you really need to marry this with magic, meaning retail still needs to be emotional, and marketers and retailers need to surprise and delight and create things you never knew that you wanted. But what can also happen in terms of machinery is test, read, and react. And this can be done very advanced fashion by measuring customer interactions across many different data points and using this to help inform the merchants, the buyers, the creative process as well. Robotics. So rethinking the store, Walmart, curbside pickup. What's happening with the future of labor? What can and should happen is there are some really not fun jobs at Walmart, such as unloading the trucks. And so robots can really help here in terms of the fast unloader in the store, picking and packing items. As curbside pickup becomes more and more important, it's really going to be difficult for many employees to do the pick and pack. So robotics will play a role. Floor scrubbing, inventory management. This should all drive a better customer experience, and it's also very connected. And then health and wellness. What I really care about next is really thinking about mental and physical health and this integration of 2 worlds. Healthcare is a major societal topic. So how will retail and marketers pursue this in different ways? It's a new frontier, but it's important to me, and I see a lot of innovation here. So I'll close it out, new, next, and generational. So what I went over is this new ecosystem developing. Some things to remember as I think about the future is this emergence of platforms and marketplaces, multiple touch points to the consumers and connected in new and innovative ways. In many ways, retail is an ecosystem, financial services, healthcare, one-stop shop, and retail will evolve in this way because scale does matter. Second, customer centricity, a new customer, convenience, culture, and curation are all important in the competition to win the mind share and engagement, as well as being very connected and driving a community. And third and finally, this idea of magic and logic. So AI, supply chain automation, planning, allocation, pricing, you really have to get these right as well. Chris, thanks. I'm really happy to turn it back to you for speaking now.
Thank you, Oliver. That was some really fascinating stuff. When I initially read your deck, I was like, "This is great. I got to read this a couple times." But no, thank you. This was excellent. Very much along the lines of what we have been talking about for a couple of years now at the IAB. It's particularly in our brand disruption report. There's a couple things in there that you mentioned that were really interesting to me, and things that we've been thinking about here at the IAB. And I wanted to tap your brain a little bit more about those topics. The first one is the concept of the Uberification of retail. As this on-demand economy, as we call it at IAB, is a real game changer in terms of convenience and speed, with companies like Gorilla and Joker and Fast AF emerging, delivering stuff to people's homes in 15 minutes. So what do you think is the opportunities for marketers to insert themselves into that construct? i.e., how can they promote their products within these shopping occasions to drive sales?
Yeah, Chris, what I think is really important is for marketers to be early and fairly aggressive, because as customers become loyal to certain products or try them and sample them, what's really important is the repeat, and it's been in their basket previously, so they're likely to choose it again. So I think there probably will be a shakeout in that dynamic of winners and losers as it's a race to build loyalty early, given that dynamic. Second, I do think about packaging in terms of making sure that packaging adjusts with the consumer and new ways in which products are being delivered in that fashion. That's very important too. And then third point, Chris, is just the lifestyle is changing. So the instant on demand experience probably opens up new innovation ideas for different times of days and different occasions, and what experiential means in terms of capturing new moments and new types of products as well.
Yeah, interesting. You bring up a point that makes me, about these new shopping occasions and kind of the mindset that's going on there. It makes me think that as this space continues to develop, that we've only dipped our toe into the waters of how this is going to develop and eventually iterate. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I'm going to get back to kind of delivery here. We're living in a world where everything is essentially, or can be, delivered by mail. But how does that upend the notion of exclusivity, right? It seems like there's more a democratization in terms of being able to get things and get them quickly. I wonder if that's a threat to exclusivity. And how does a brand drive how do they curate their products and their brand overall to maintain this notion of exclusivity?
Yeah, Chris, what's always important to me is a brand culturally relevant, and a brand really understanding where the consumer is moving, and also surprising and delighting the consumer. Exclusivity is a really fascinating topic. I think about models like Supreme or Kith or Montclair, where there's drops and there's unique times to really experience unique products. Where you have to line up or log onto a website at a specific time, or there's extremely interesting creative partnerships. That runs into another topic, is like, how can brands intersect in innovative ways? Kith and Coca-Cola, Evian, Virgil Abloh, Comme des Garçons, Gucci, like really fascinating partnerships and limited edition product that combines unique worlds in different ways. And then we were talking earlier, Chris, but gamification, and this is a Louis Vuitton belt that I like, but it's League of Legends and Louis Vuitton and the virtual world, and how that can happen too. So different ideas around innovation and scarcity, because this is a world where everything's available to all people at all times in many ways. So that's important. And then rethinking experiential retail, like the in-person events, music, culture, fashion. I think they all have a place. And access and democratization as well. You really have to be giving the consumer a good value or a great experience.
Yeah, when you talk about some of those partnerships with the brands, and with partners you wouldn't expect them to work with. The one that's got a lot of buzz this year was the Roblox with Gucci. I didn't see that coming at all. Just this concept of Gucci going into the gaming space and then going into Roblox. I mean, my son, he's 12. I mean, that's what he plays. So I was really surprised by that. Does something like that surprise you, or are you thinking like it's a brand new world we're living in, and we're going to continue to be surprised by the types of partnerships such as that?
I mean, the video game world is massive and extremely important because the engagement level is high. Also, of course, it's great to engage consumers who are really young. I think there will be responsibility and privacy issues, but I think the world of blockchain, NFT, and virtual is extremely important to consider because that's where your consumer is. So rethinking retail in terms of virtual objects and virtual value and dressing, and it comes back to humans expressing themselves in online or offline, and how can brands and consumers and marketers play a role there, and hopefully a positive way.
Yeah, that is incredibly relevant right now. We have the new announcement from Facebook. They're becoming Meta. A lot of talk about NFTs, a lot of talk about the blockchain. I interviewed some folks last week on IAB there regarding crypto and the exchange of first-party data for crypto. We're really heading into a new world, and we are heading quickly. I want to move on to another topic that I found really interesting, and that is the movement that is occurring from predictive to prescriptive marketing. So, i.e., getting customers to buy something before they even know that they needed and or wanted it. I mean, I see this as a next level understanding of consumer preferences. I think retailers and brands who excel at this will be the winners moving forward in a very competitive marketplace. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Chris, I agree with you. And part of that really is data collection and interaction measurement, loyalty programs that can understand the consumer on a transaction basis, and then retail understanding what's in his or her refrigerator already or his or her closet. And what you can do there is understand the context of what looks good on a person or what a person needs. And there's simple and interesting ways this will happen over time. I mean, if a consumer is purchasing a certain kind of item every year for Halloween or Thanksgiving, then Walmart or Target can be quite prescriptive about, hey, here's what you need. Do you want it? Click, and then it goes straight into your refrigerator. With retailers like Nordstrom and fashion, it's like really understanding what might look good on you on the basis of understanding what's in your closet now and the unique aspects of your body. And then healthcare is a new frontier too. I think retail and marketers really have to earn the right and earn the trust of the consumer for this to happen. And then it will also be interesting, how much data across different kinds of retail should or should not be integrated to give a more holistic mosaic. So these will be new frontiers, but safety will be important, authenticity, and my hope is retail can do this to positively impact health and wellness as well.
Yeah, I think you brought up an important point, and that was the authenticity idea, because obviously brands aren't going to, and retailers aren't going to want to be kind of, prompting people in a prescriptive way. And, there's that fine line where it starts to become overselling, if you will. So I think if they can establish an authentic relationship and don't cross that overselling line, that consumers will consider to be an incredibly valuable and useful service. I think we have time for one more question. So I want to ask you this question, and you just mentioned the word a couple moments ago, and it's loyalty. So how do you think brand loyalty was affected, if at all, by the pandemic? And what is the key recipe for brands building and retaining loyalty moving forward in this new omni-channel shopping ecosystem that has now become a reality?
Yeah, Chris, I think there's a few dimensions of loyalty. Firstly, friction and being frictionless and trying to really figure out where the pain points are in a customer journey and eliminating those. Second point is really fabulous, awesome product that's totally functional and cutting edge, because you're paying extra or you're being loyal for a very core reason. And third is surprise and delight. How can you really add to Chris or Oliver Chen? Sometimes we're looking for relaxation and it's quite emotional. So that's important too. And your second question, Chris, consumers more than ever before are open, and they may or may not be loyalty. I mean, there's many fabulous brands that are being created right now. And Generation A, Generation Z, very different and similar in some ways, but there's a big open field for new brands to redefine retail. At the same time, we've seen a lot of amazing innovation at incumbents, such as Walmart, Target, and Macy's, where they've accelerated change too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think loyalty is something that brands and marketers are going to be continually tinkering with. They're going to have to understand their consumers, this new post-COVID consumer, to really nail that and get it right. I think that is about all the time that we have. I wanted to thank you, Oliver, for giving your presentation and speaking with me today. Again, folks, this is Oliver Chen, who's the Managing Director, Head of Retail and Luxury at Cowen Investment Banks. And I'm Chris Bruderle, Senior Director of Research and Analytics at the IAB. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris and IAB, and thanks for tuning in. It was a pleasure to be here.
Our pleasure as well.